You might have noticed that sometimes, when things change slowly, it's almost as if you barely notice the change at all. It's almost like you've gotten so used to the pace of change that before you know it, you've already adapted to something new. And then when you look back, it seems like it was always this way. Funny how that happens, right? It's like the temperature of water rising slowly. Imagine being in a place where the warmth surrounds you, comfortable and steady at first. It's barely noticeable, isn't it? Just a little warmer than usual. But then again, that's how change sometimes works. So gradual, the discomfort. It doesn't immediately grab your attention. So you adjust, you adapt, and you feel less and less. The change happens, and yet it's almost as if you're in control, even when the change continues bit by bit, inch by inch. When you think about it, that's a pattern, isn't it? The gradual shift. The way things evolve, not with a sudden rush, but rather with a subtle, gentle tug that you hardly even notice until it's too late. Have you ever found yourself in a situation like that, where things were fine, at least you thought they were, until suddenly they weren't? But it wasn't all at once, no. It was a series of smaller shifts, like adjustments that seemed perfectly reasonable at the time. And before you even realised it, you found yourself deeper in something than you ever expected. Now, imagine, if you will, that you're starting to feel the warmth a little more now. Maybe it's in the way things are around you, the pace, the rhythm of the change. If something changed too fast, you might have felt that uncomfortable jolt, right? But this, it's so gradual. It's almost like you want to adjust to it, need to adjust to it, because after all, it's so small, just a tiny change here and there, like a ripple in a pool of water that you can barely notice until the ripples add up, building on top of the other. Perhaps you've noticed, like many others, that the discomfort fades away, replaced by a strange sense of calm, of acceptance, of everything being okay again. It's as if your mind says, this is fine, because it's easy to accept something that arrives so gently, so slowly, even though on the inside, part of you might know it's not exactly what you expected. It's like you're in control, but perhaps on a deeper level, it's not quite what you thought. So what happens when it all shifts again? It's almost as if the process slows down for a while, until you've forgotten it ever shifted in the first place. And then, when the timing feels right, it shifts again, just a little more. And isn't it fascinating how, in some cases, when you've adjusted so comfortably, those small shifts, they don't feel so uncomfortable anymore? What if, just what if, every time you let go of some of that discomfort, you discover more flexibility, more ability to adapt, more resilience than you ever imagined? Now picture yourself in a situation where the environment around you shifts. Maybe it's something small, maybe something large. But what you know is, the next phase begins again, when you least expect it. When that moment comes, it feels just right. It feels as if it's the next natural step, because you've already adapted. And if there's a challenge, it's not as big as you thought. After all, you've been through something similar before, haven't you? It's not so hard when you think about it, but after all, the process builds on itself. It starts small, then it continues layer by layer, step by step. You've adapted before. You'll adapt again. When the change seems like it's something more, something big, you've already adjusted to the smaller shifts. So the bigger ones, they almost seem natural, don't they? In the process of gradual change, you may find once a certain level of comfort has been reached, it becomes easier to handle the next phase of change. And then the next, until before you know it, you realise you've grown into something new. Something you once didn't even recognise as change at all. And isn't it interesting how when everything feels calm again, when you've let go of all the tension, all the resistance, and everything has settled into a new rhythm, the idea of the next change, it doesn't feel so difficult anymore. Because now, with that shift in place, you might begin to notice you can handle a little more than you did before. And each time it's a little more, a little further. But it all feels so much easier than it did first time. The magic then seems to be in how it all comes together, doesn't it? Each change, each subtle shift, it builds upon the last. Each change adding a little more resilience, a little more flexibility, a little more readiness for what's next. And after all, when you're ready for what's next, you're always prepared to meet it, with a deeper understanding of how you navigated the past. In the end, it's all about knowing that change, no matter how gradual, no matter how subtle, it brings with it opportunities to grow, to expand, to adjust. And if you ever find yourself in a place where change has crept up on you, you'll recognise you've already been adapting all along, and you're perfectly capable of handling what's ahead.